Hi crochet friends, and thanks for coming back to join me for another lesson. Today I'm going to teach a quick video on how to work in the round. You're going to learn how to make a circle, how to make a magic ring to start with, and how to count and finish off your circles. Today I'm using a weight 4 yarn. If you don't know how to find the weight, just turn your yarn label over and it has a picture of yarn with a number in it. You do not need a weight 4 today because we're not doing a specific pattern, but I just want to share with you what I am using. I'm using this awesome bright orange so you can see my stitches very clearly. I chose to use a size G hook, which is a 4.25 millimeter. You can see it there. You will need a stitch marker so that you can count the first stitch of every round. So go ahead and grab one of these. I will share with you later, but I do use multiple types. So it doesn't have to look like mine. You just need something to hold that first stitch. You're going to need a needle for the end to weaving your tails. I pass these out to a lot of my students. I favor using these though at home. Get yourself a pair of scissors that you can cut your yarn with, and you should be good to go. I'm going to teach you how to work in a flat circle today. In the future, I will teach you how to make circular like heads or anything like that, like a beanie, where the circle actually grows longer and then starts to close back up. I'm doing these for dolls that I'm working on right now. So, but yeah, this is a great place to start. So go ahead and get your supplies and hop back on here and join me. To start off making your circle, you will need to make a ring that you're going to be crocheting inside of. You will notice that these terms are interchangeably used, magic ring or magic circle, and they're abbreviated MR or MC. I prefer to use magic ring, but either one is fine, and you'll see either one written in many different patterns. In order to do the magic ring, there's different ways to do this. I'll teach you one way right now, but you're going to take your 2 fingers. So I'm teaching for right-handed right now. You're going to put the tail in your left hand. Okay, you're going to wrap your yarn over your 2 fingers, come back around, and you're going to crisscross the yarn. Okay, and I just kind of hold it in place with my 4th finger there. Then you're going to go under the first loop, and you're going to take that 2nd loop, and you're going to just pull it back through the first, just like so. Okay, that's the first step. Pause this, rewind it, practice it. It's hard to do, but I promise once you learn this technique, you'll never do anything else. And then I just I hold it together, and then I'm going to go ahead and take the working end and just chain 1 with it for right now. You have to do that chain 1 or else your loop will fall apart. There's your magic ring. Now the trick to working inside this circle is you have to crochet around both of these pieces of yarn. A lot of times students get tempted to pull this out and pull it out of the way. You don't want to do that, because what happens is when you crochet over it and you pull it, you need this piece to grab all those pieces and to tighten them up together. It kind of cinches up that hole. So once you've done your magic ring, you're going to go ahead and put your crochets into the center. For teaching purposes today, I'm only going to do 6 single crochets into the middle, but I will teach you how to grow your circle based on those 6. So once you finish the magic ring, go ahead and move on to the next step. If you need more time, pause the video, rewind it, go back and rewatch that. And once you get it, you can move along with us. So now I just chained 1. We're going to do single crochets into the magic ring. A little educational tip here is if I was going to be putting double crochets inside this ring, a taller stitch, I would have chained 3, because 3 chains is the same height as a double crochet. But we're doing a single crochet, so a chain 1 is the same height as a single crochet. So we have our chain 1. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do 6 single crochets into the circle. I'm also assuming that everyone joining right now crochets, so I'm not really teaching you how to single crochet, but I can give you a brief overview of it. When you single crochet, you want to go ahead and put your hook into the center of the ring, yarn over, come back through. Remember to grab both of those pieces of yarn and work around them. You have 2 left on your hook, yarn over, go through the 2, and that was your single crochet. When you're done, you should have 6, and I'll count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that's my chain 1, so I need to do 1 more. I don't count my chains as part of my stitches in my work. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can tell I have 6 here, and then I have my little chain 1 I'm not counting. The cool thing about the magic ring is this. When you're ready to close up this hole, you don't have to put 6, you could put 4, 3, whatever you want. If you put too many, that hole's not going to close all the way. You're going to take your string, and I kind of put a little tension here on the side where it's at, and you just tug on the string, and you pull nice and snug, and it closes up the hole for you. Now we still have to connect this side over here, else it's not a perfect circle. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and you're going to put your hook inside that very first stitch. Now let's pause here and let me explain something to you. When you work in a circle, you can do two things. You could join every stitch and then chain up for your next round, or you can work in a continual round, which means I'm not going to join and I'm not going to chain up. It'll create more of a spiral, but it's not very noticeable. It's my preferred method unless I'm trying to get perfectly straight rounds. Then I'll connect and then I'll unchain up. When I do my dolls, I do this method. So this was number 6 right here. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to go back into the very first stitch. But now when you want to grow your circle, we've got to increase. Well, I'm going to go ahead and put my first single crochet into the first crochet of the last round. And I'm going to stop there. You want a stitch marker to mark that very first stitch. Okay, if you mess up on this round, you know that you can pull it back out to where the stitch marker is, and you don't have to worry about counting every single round. And this is very helpful, especially when you're like 10 rounds in. You know, you don't want to have to go back and count stuff. And I've done it for many students gladly to help them out, but it's very time consuming, and so I'm sure at home you don't want to be doing that yourself. So use a stitch marker. It doesn't have to look like this. I buy multiple types. If you look here, I have a bag full of them. I buy these colorful sheer ones at Hobby Lobby. I've bought these pink and white ones at Joann's, and these purple and blue ones are also from Hobby Lobby. I prefer these. They break a little easy, but they also lock. And so if you're doing a very big project, it's really important that you just take your hook right here and you lock it. So if you're going to put your project down and walk away, or sometimes these can fall out, that will keep your spot and you won't lose where you're at. Okay, back to round 2. So in the first round, we did 6 single crochets. In the next round, you want to put an increase into every stitch. So if we're putting 2 crochet stitches inside every stitch from the first round, and you had 6 times 2 means you're going to end up with 12. So let's count together. I put my first one already. I'm going back into that same stitch. I'm doing another crochet, single crochet. So now I have 2 single crochets into that first one. Now I'm going to move to the next stitch, and I'm going to do 2 single crochets in the next stitch. So now I have 2 and 2, which is 4. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to continue this pattern all the way around until I have 12, because remember 6 times 2 is 12. So round 1 we did 6. Round 2 we're going to do 12. And let's see, follow along with me here. Pause it if you need to take your time. Okay, I'm on my last 2. I'm trying to go slow. All right, so here we have, sometimes this hole will loosen on your second round just because you're pulling. You can just tug on it really hard on the back and it closes up really nicely. Okay, so here again, it's not a perfect circle because we're working in a spiral. I'll teach you how to close that off at the end. So you have 6 in the first round, and this last round we have 12. So I'm going to count and show you. We never count the one on the hook, remember that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and the stitch that has the hook inside of it will be your 12. It really was your first one, but I'm counting backwards just to make sure I have the right amount crochet. So 6 and 12. Now here's a little bit of math for you, and if you're a math nerd like me, you'll get this. When you start off with 6 and you're increasing to make a circle, everything is going to be increased by the number 6. So if we ended up with 12 on this round, what will round 3 be? If you said 18, you are correct, because 12 plus 6 more is 18. And how do we do the third round? How do we make our circles grow without it cupping down, without it curling up, without it being really wavy? How do we do that? Well, it's really important that you just watch your counts. So you're going to go ahead and take that marker out. We're going to put our next stitch in that where the marker was, and then we'll put the marker back in. So the pattern for round 3 is going to be 1 single crochet, and then you're going to do 2 in the next one. 1 single crochet in the next, 2 in the next. And when I say 2 single crochets into a stitch, that would be called an increase. Because when you put 2 crochets into 1 stitch, you're increasing the width of it. That's how the circle grows, okay? When you want to stop your circle from growing, you don't increase anymore. So the pattern is 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, all the way around. You'll end up with 18. So let's go ahead and do this. So you're going to do your first single crochet. That's the number 1 stitch on round 3. I'm going to put my marker back in there and I'm going to finish counting. So that was 1. So the second stitch we're putting 2 in. So there's 2, 3. The next one I only put 1, which is 4. And then I put 2 more, which is 5, 6. Then putting another one, which gives us 7. Whoops. And then I put 2 in the next one, which gives us 8 and 9. And then we have 10. And then 2 more gives us 11 and 12. Okay, you guys staying with me here? And then 1 more is 13. And then we have 14 and 15. And then I've got 1 is 16. And our very last stitch, you should end up with 2. So if the pattern is 1, 2, 1, 2, you should end on that 2. And right here, you're going to have 18. And I'm not going to go ahead and count it because I don't want to waste your time. But if you count every stitch, don't count the one on the hook. You should have 18. Make sure that you count the one with a marker too, okay? So here's 18. So we have 6, 12, 18. The next row is going to have 24. And the pattern for this, there's a few different ways to stagger your stitches as you grow your circles. If you continually do, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, and you keep increasing it like that, you'll kind of start to see a hexagonal shape because there's 6 counts, so 6 sides, if you will. So sometimes we will stagger, me and a lot of crocheters will stagger our counts. So this row would be, we're going to do 24, and I'll explain myself in a minute. I don't want to confuse you. So before we did 1 and then 2, 1 and 2, on this row, we're going to do 1, and you're going to do 1 in the next one, and then you're going to do an increase, which is 2. And you're going to repeat that the whole way around. So you could say out loud if you want 1, 1, and then 2. And again, you're going to do 1, 1, and put 2. I'm going to pause the video, and I will meet you back at the end of this round. So ending on round 4, and here's how you count your rounds too. You've got the middle, right? That's round 1. You have the next ring around it, which is round 2. Then you have another ring, which is round 3, and the one we just finished, which is round 4. When you crochet in rows, we call it row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. When you crochet in a circle, we call them rounds because you are working in a round. So starting round 5. Round 4 should end in 24. Round 5 is going to have 24 plus 6, so 30. The pattern for round 5 is going to be, you're going to do 3 singles, so 1, 1, 1, and then increase. And if you notice a pattern, you're going to realize that every time you start a new round, you just do an extra single crochet before you do your increase. Let me pause this and show you something. So some of us are visual learners and some of us need to see numbers. And so I wrote this out really quick. We did row 1, which was 6 single crochets. We did row 2, which was increasing all the way around, which gave us 12. Row 3, we did 1 single crochet and then we increased and we repeated that all the way around, which gave us 18. You'd have 1 and then 2 stitches here, which is 3 stitches. And when you repeat that 6 times, you get 18. Row 4, we did single crochet, increase. We repeated it around and got 24. Row 5, single crochet, single crochet, single crochet, and then increase. Do you see how it builds? Every time you want to grow your circle, you're just going to do 1 more single crochet before you do your increase. So we have 1, 2, we have 2 of them and then an increase. We have 3 of them. This is the row we're on right here. We're going to do 3 single crochets and increase. Row 6, we're going to do 4 single crochets and then an increase. Guys, you could do this up to 20 rounds. It doesn't matter. Just every time you want to build your circle, do an extra single crochet for that round before your increase and repeat that the entire way around. This is great if you want to use a chunky yarn and a really big hook and you want to make like a throw rug, like a circle rug for your family room or your, kitchen. You can always put like a backing on it so it doesn't slip. When you do beanies, you could start off with this too. Once you get to a certain width and it doesn't need to be wider anymore, you stop the increases and just single crochet and that makes a cup shape. All right, so back to round 5. So we're going to go ahead and continue. I'm going to just go up to round 6 and then I'm going to stop. But I just wanted to give you guys a lot of information. You're probably going to have to watch this a few times each so you can kind of write it all down and understand it. I will come back on and teach more on this soon. but I just wanted to give you something basic to start with. So 1, 2, 3, we're starting row 5. So go ahead, you're going to do 3 single crochets in a row, and then you'll do your increase. So there's 1, 2, 3, and then you have your increase right here. We're going to do that all the way around. So again, you're going to do 1, 2, 3, and then your increase. And keep going. So once you get this down, circles actually work up pretty quick. And if you can make a circle, a flat circle, you can make anything in a circle. It's just building off of it. So I'll go ahead and pause my video. I will meet you back here at the end of round 5, and we will conclude with round 6. Alrighty, round 5 is done. Your circle is definitely starting to grow by now. Remember earlier I was mentioning how you can stagger your counts so to avoid. Do you see how it's not a perfect circle? Do you see how it kind of is more of like a hexagon? Well, I notice it at least. I think you can see it on my video. So to avoid this, and I usually try to stagger them, I just for teaching purposes don't want to confuse you all today, but let's say that on round 5, you know, I told you guys to do, right here, I told you guys to do single, 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 and an increase. Well, a lot of times we'll do like a single. I'll throw my increase in the middle of these two, and then I'll repeat the pattern. And what it does, it kind of offsets this part right here so that you don't have a specific point growing in every direction. However, this is fine too. And for learning purposes, I just suggest just getting this down, and then later you can play around with splitting up your patterns so that you can avoid these little points. All right, so round 6, our very last round, you're going to, oh, let me bring the paper back, sorry. You're going to do 4 single crochets, 1 in every stitch below. So you're going to do 1, 1, 1, 1, and then in that 5th hole, you're going to do an increase, which means 2 stitches. So it's going to be 1, 1, 1, 1, 2. You're going to end up with 36 because if you have an increase, that's 2 stitches, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 6 times 6 is 36, okay? I teach you the math behind it because a lot of times the light bulb goes on in some people and they're like, oh, I get it, you know, and then it helps them to move forward and to continue doing more on their own. So starting round 6, you're going to go ahead and you'll do your 4 single crochets all in your separate stitches. I'll put your marker back in. I bet a lot of you forget to put that in there. I really suggest using it because it's very easy to lose your counts when you're doing this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's my increase. If you lose your spot, I tell all my students, if you lose your spot, pull your work apart a little bit. Look at really close. Can you see there's 2 stitches in that same hole? So there's my increase. Sometimes people forget where they're at. If you just stretch your work, you can clearly see that there's only 1 here and there's 1 here, but you can see that there's 2 here. And so that should help you to retrace your counts if you ever get lost. I'll meet you back at the end of the row. All right, if you're back and you have finished round 6, congratulations. You have created a circle, you've learned the pattern and understanding hopefully the math behind it. Again, you can continue growing this. You could do round 7 and you would do 5 single crochets and then your increase. You can keep going, practice, play around with it. If you wanted to stop your work right here, all we're going to do is slip stitch over 1 or 2 stitches to close up that circle because right now it has a little step and we don't want to leave our work looking like that. If you want to practice making a beanie and you're using a much thicker hook, you could keep growing this to the size of the crown, and then once the circle fits the crown of your head, you can stop increasing and just put single crochets all the way around, and that will create the circle to pull down in a dome-like fashion. And you can keep going until it's long enough to cover the head. You can make it long enough so you could flip up a brim. Seriously, you guys, play around with it. You can't mess it up. It's just yarn. So you mess up, you start over, right? Or you rip it out and use your yarn again. So have fun with this. Let me show you how to go ahead and finish off the circle. I'm going to take out the stitch marker now. I won't be needing it anymore because I'm done. I'm going to take your hook, and if you forgot what a slip stitch was, you're just going to connect this to the next stitch. You're going to, don't yarn over, you're going to put your hook in the hole. Then you're going to yarn over and go through everything. So I'm going to come back through the hole, plus I'm going to keep going through the one on my hook. Okay, and sometimes it's still completely not flat, so I'll go over like another stitch. And then once that's done, your circle should be good to go. I usually chain 2, and then I like to cut a decent sized tail so that I can weave in my yarn. If any of you want me to show you how to weave in your ends. You can keep following this video. If you feel like you're good and you're done and you want to work on your circle, thank you so much for joining me today. Stay tuned. I will be posting another video in the next couple of days. Sorry that I have been MIA for a while. It's been really crazy here, and but I'll be posting videos a lot more recently, or more often. So thanks for joining me. Those of you who are going to learn how to weave in your yarn, go ahead and follow me here. Okay, so those of you who have stuck with me, we're going to go ahead and weave in our ends. You can use my classes. I give out these plastic needles. I give them to everyone. They're good to count with. They're good for me to help show them things, but then they're also good for weaving in your yarn. However, when I crochet at home, I always use a metal hook. And the reason is sometimes they're harder to thread, but the reason I use these is that this metal hook can weave into much tighter places than this guy. And so I just prefer to have my yarn tightly woven. So it's preference. You don't have to use either one. You can use whatever's more comfortable for you. So these are harder to thread, but I kind of have it down by now. So you thread your needle or your plastic needle or whatever you want to use. And this is the back side. So if you look at this, actually, let's talk about this. Look at the back side. See how the stitches look different than the front? You can look at your own work in front of you, but this is called the right side. Okay, when you work in a circle, you're not working in rows, so you're not flipping your work back and forth. When you work in a row, your work looks the same on both sides usually because you're alternating sides, and so every other row matches the other of every other row on the other side. But a circle is not like that. We're working on the same side the entire time. So the front side is called the right side, and this is the side that we were working on. If you flip it over, this would be the back side, also known as the wrong side. And so you will see that in patterns. The wrong side is also abbreviated as WS, right side as RS. There's other terminology that some people choose to use, but those are the most popular terms. So we weave in our yarn on the wrong side because we don't want people to see it. And I always tell everybody, you know, my students, make sure you're really weaving your tails good because you want your work to look clean. You don't just want to tie a knot and cut it and leave your thread hanging. It looks sloppy. And eventually it could just, you know, weave its way out. So we don't need to tie any knots. I already have a knot tied here. And this was crocheted around with 6 single crochets. It's not going anywhere. When I go ahead and take my needle, I'm going to go ahead and work it into like a dense area. So I try to skip the spaces. I try to go where there's a lot of yarn where I can hide it well. And I'll do, just for the sample size, I'm not going to weave it very far. Usually I do about 1.5 inches. I'm going, if you look where I came out of, I do it 3 times back and forth. I'm going to go back across, but I'm not going to go in the same hole I came out of because we don't want to do anything. So I'm going to skip a little spot and then I'm going to go back the other way. But notice that I'm going back and forth in the same direction. And I pull it snug, but don't pull it too tight or else your project's going to get wrinkled up, okay? So I'll go back one more time. That's number 3. And just pull it kind of snug, and then when you're done, take a pair of scissors. Make sure you always cut up and away from your project. Don't ever cut down into your project. I've done that, and I've cut my project, and I had to redo it, and it was a pain. So just kind of cut up and away from it. I cut as close as I can to the backing, and if you do that and look, I know where it's at, but if someone's looking, it's kind of hard to tell where you sewed it into. And we're going to do the same with the other piece right here. So we're just going to go ahead and rethread your needle and do the same thing. I usually weave it back and forth about 3 times. I'll kind of play with the tension as I pull so that if you pull too hard, you're going to create that dip, right? So make sure that you don't tug too hard so that you can keep it flush with the rest of the edging. There's 2. I'm going to go back one more time. There's 3. And again, you can kind of reshape it once you're done with it and take your scissors and just cut up and away. And that's it. You're done. You guys did, hopefully you did a great job and you enjoyed it and you learned. Oh yeah, you guys can make coasters doing this. I didn't even think of that. I used to make coasters all the time, but now I just make other stuff. But you could do really cute coasters with this, little gifts for Mother's Day. You guys could, someone should try a rug and then send me a picture because I really want to make one. I just don't have time to do it. But that would be fun to get a bunch of scrap yarn and just make one big rug. And then you could flip it over, you know, and put a little hot glue or different adhesives on the back so it doesn't slip on the floor. But yeah, anyways, please message me, show me what you've learned, comment down below if you have any questions. Please reach out to me. I have My business page is Made with Love by Jenny. I have my crochet class page, Crochet with Jenny. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I'm on Google. Not really teaching my crochet classes still, just because of, unfortunately, classes are still closed with COVID. Not my choice, but they are. So reach out to me if you have any further questions or something else you would like to learn. Comment down below. I'm trying to make these pages just for you guys to continue your passion for crocheting, or those who want to learn and just haven't found that right person to learn from. Message me. I love teaching people. This is what I love to do. This is what I do full time. And so if I'm not doing this, or you know, I'm doing orders, and if I'm not doing that, I'm homeschooling my 3 teenagers. So anyways, take care. Thank you again for following me, and I look forward to seeing you guys all soon.